One thing I've realized on this journey is that God's love doesn't always show up in the ways we expect. Sometimes it's not in a sermon, a worship song, or even a scripture verse. It can be in a moment or a feeling sparked by something totally unexpected. Recently, I was listening to an R&B song that I had heard several times before, one of my favorites. But this time, the lyrics hit me in a way I never anticipated. Even though that song wasn't written with faith in mind, something in those words made me feel this overwhelming sense of love and belonging. I recognized it as God's love speaking to me right where I was through those lyrics that on the surface seemed like just a love song. Isn't it amazing how God can use even that, an R&B song meant for a different purpose, to remind us of His. That's the power of His goodness. He meets us exactly where we are, whether we're seeking Him in a church or listening to music at home. That experience reminded me that God's presence is so much bigger than we can understand. His love isn't limited to sacred places or messages. It can show up in the most unexpected spaces, reminding us that He is always with us, using anything and everything to speak to us. So if you've ever felt God's love or presence in an unexpected place, even through a love song, know that it's real. He's showing you His heart in a way that resonates with where you are, in a language you can feel deeply. And that's the beauty of His love. It can reach us no matter where we are or what we're doing. God's love isn't confined to religious spaces. It's everywhere, and it's for us, even in the places we least expect. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Say It Forward with Lou. This is Linda, aka Lou, your host, and we are a community for healing, growth, and creativity, and positivity. So let's dive in and sift through today's topic and chat. So today on this episode of Say It Forward with Lou, it's one that's really close to my heart. And I've titled it My Love Under New Management, My Journey of Falling in Love with God. And it's inspired by a couple of beautiful R&B songs. I'm an old school R&B head. Like I said before, I am a Generation Xer. I am of the generation of growing up in New York and listening to The Quiet Storm, WBLS 107.5 or 98.7 KISS FM. And in my college years, listening to 96.3 WHUR. And so one of the songs is by the beautiful Mickey Howard. And I know it's an R&B song, right, with secular lyrics, but it's a song that has spoken to me for so long. And today I want to share how its words echoed my journey with God and falling in love under new management, God's management. And so R&B is a genre I've always loved, a style that's brought comfort, encouragement, and reflection to my life. And sometimes I think God's love can show up in surprising places, even in a song that wasn't written with faith in mind. And in Mickey Howard's song, she sings about coming to a new kind of love after experiencing pain and disappointment, a love that feels safe, healing, and transformative. And this song for me became an anthem for understanding the new life and love that I was finding in God's love. And it might not have been written about Him, but when I heard those lyrics about love under new management, which I had heard several times before, probably thinking about somebody's big old musty son, right? This time, I couldn't help but think about the transformation that happened when I placed my heart fully in God's hands. So I think there's something beautiful in how God can speak to us through all kinds of experiences, even a song we might not expect. For me, Love Under New Management was a confirmation of God's fulfillment and looking at my worth. And I had went through seasons where my heart was tied to relationships, to people, to places where I thought I'd find stability and joy that I longed for, right? But time and again, those sources left me empty, always feeling like I had to earn love or prove myself worthy or audition for the love. But this song helped me realize that true love, the kind that heals and doesn't depend on performing or earning it, is the love I found in God. And how I truly embraced that love. And when my heart entered a new season, my life became under new management in the best sense as God took over. He's shown me that his love is constant and faithful and free. Loving God first has become the anchor that holds me, especially in times of uncertainty. And it allowed me to love myself as he sees me, embracing my worth as something given and not earned. That's what makes it a love I can truly trust. And it's why I feel so grateful to be able to love others from this healthy place, right? In this new management, there's no need for me to chase validation or approval. I have it in him. And it's amazing to think that even songs I once turned to for comfort in difficult times, not thinking about God in those moments, but thinking about whoever I might have been dealing with at the time, now feel like a part of my faith journey. And I think of those lyrics as a reminder of how far God has brought me and how much joy and wholeness I've found in letting him be the center of my life. And so if you're listening and wondering what that could look like for you, I encourage you to embrace this love under new management, to find the joy, the peace, and the assurance that we all long for, because it's already here waiting in his love. And just to go on a bit further about the Mickey Howard song, Love Under New Management, it spoke to me on such a deep level. She sang the lyrics that said, "Experience is a good teacher. It takes someone like me to know. Some call it love. It never has a chance to grow." And if you hear the song, if you know the song, you know the rhythm and the cadence of how she sang it. But hearing those words reminds me of how often we can mistake surface level relationships for real, enduring love, right? And I had spent so much of my time investing in love that never had a chance to truly blossom because it was rooted in human imperfection and in expectations that people just couldn't fulfill. And then she goes on to say in her lyrics, "You deserve something better. You deserve something better," is how she actually sang it, right? And that's exactly what God was showing me. The love I thought that was gone forever after the demise of my relationship was being redirected. And as I drew closer to God and found a friend in him, knowing him as my father and a steady companion who was there for me in the quiet moments and in the storms. And as the song says, real love stepped in. That's what happened to me. God's love entered my life in a way I'd never experienced before. Constant, healing, and wholly transformative. Placing my love, my heart, and my identity under God's new management has been a journey of renewal. Unlike human relationships that can come and go, his love doesn't waver. It doesn't fade with time or distance. He has become my friend, right? He is my father. He is my confidant and the source of all that I am. And this divine love has taught me to love myself fully, to let go of insecurities, and to see myself as cherished and worthy. I now know that I don't have to keep looking outward for validation or for someone to complete me, that God's love has already made me whole. And with Him as the foundation of my joy and my peace, I am now able to extend love to others from a place of fullness that I wasn't able to do before and didn't even realize that I wasn't able to do that. And so this isn't about pouring out from an empty cup. It's about sharing the abundance that God has filled in my life. And through this journey, I've realized that real love isn't defined by the presence of another person in my home, but by the unwavering presence of God in my heart. And so that leads me to the second song that I wanted to share the moment that I connected with. And that's another song by Malira called Go Outside in the Rain. And again, if you're an old school R&B head, you know this song. But in this song, she sings, "The day's begun and there's no one inside this empty house to love me. When I look out of my window, I see the rain. I see visions of you in every drop." And when I heard these lyrics that I had heard several times before, I was transported back to the days after my marriage was ending and waking up into a new condo that felt far too quiet. And I remember those rainy mornings that seemed to mirror my own grief, the emptiness filling the rooms just as I felt empty inside. And there were moments when I wondered, how could I go on? Feeling the love and the companionship had left my life entirely. But what I didn't realize was that in those rainy days, God was there and He was whispering to me and He was inviting me to step into His presence, to let Him fill the silence. That season of loneliness, as painful as it was, became the beginning of something new, a shift from sorrow to sanctification. And so to anyone and everyone listening, if you're feeling like you're caught in the rain, like the love you've sought seems like it's slipping away, I invite you to open your heart to God's love under new management. And just as I found steady love in Him, you too can experience the fullness of a love that won't leave or disappoint. And so I want to thank you for joining me today and allowing me to share a piece of my journey with you. And I hope this speaks to you, because no matter where you find yourself on your path, maybe God is calling you into a love that transforms everything. If you've been searching, know it's okay to let go of what no longer is serving you, to step into a love that heals, strengthens, and reassures. And remember, even if the message comes through a familiar R&B song, God has a way of showing up wherever you are, using whatever speaks to you to draw us closer to Him. And so I'm going to continue this conversation on the Live with Lou. So I want you to please join me there, because we're going to dive deeper and explore what it means to have our lives and our hearts under new management and a love that truly lasts. And so before we end today's episode, I want to pose some reflection questions that I want you to think about, reflect, and ponder on, that we will be discussing on the Live with Lou later this week, and that I also will be answering myself. And the first one is, can you recall a moment when a secular song or a piece of art, movie, experience unexpectedly spoke to your heart in a way that felt spiritual? What emotions or thoughts did it stir in you, And how did that experience shift your perspective? Also, how might this show that God's messages are not confined to what we label as sacred? And could this be a reminder that God meets us where we are, whether it's in a church pew or singing along to a song on the radio, right? I also want you to think about the questions. What might it look like to allow God to manage your love life? Does it mean surrendering control, redefining priorities, or learning to see yourself as God sees you? And in what ways have you tried to manage love on your own terms in the past? And how did those efforts align or not align with what you now understand as God's purpose for you? And what barriers, whether it's emotional, spiritual, or even practical, have you faced in placing your heart in God's management? And how have you worked to overcome them? And lastly, I want you to reflect on the relationships currently in your life, your romantic, platonic, or familiar relationships. And are there patterns where you've struggled to trust God's timing or intentions? And how do you feel when you try to hold on to control? Does it lead to peace or more frustration? And then lastly, what might surrendering look like for you? Could it be letting go of a relationship, choosing to wait, or simply seeking God's wisdom in prayer before making decisions about a relationship? And how can you remind yourself daily to place your trust in God's plan, especially when it comes to love? So those are the questions that I want you to really think about today and leading up to our live with Lou. And I just want to say thank you. Truly thank you for tuning in today. This was a shorter episode, but if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration. Follow me on my social media on Instagram at sayitforward_podcast. That's where I will be going live with the Live with Luz. And let's keep the conversation going. And until next time, keep saying it forward, keep living fearlessly and authentically. And as always, stay tuned, stay a while, and let's say it forward. I look forward to chatting with you all again soon. Take care.